that argument. He has consistently amplified that argument. He has defended President-elect Trump in the wake of January 6th, continued to spread lies about the 2020 election. And now he is someone who is interested in, by his own words, completely remaking and or potentially dismantling the Justice Department. And this is a decision that is delighting people like Steve Bannon, who sort of talked with glee about how Gates would be a blowtorch to the Justice Department, and is very much concerning career civil servants and even some in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, Gates is a controversial figure within his own party. What are some of them saying?
I think it's safe to say, Jose, that there is a degree of skepticism about this appointment, even from Republicans, including the Senate Republicans that will be tasked with confirming this pick for Donald Trump. It really comes at an interesting time because you see Senate Republicans in particular with a commitment to helping Donald Trump enact his agenda and displaying a degree of loyalty to him that we've really never seen. The Senate, in many respects, has been filled with more institutional and mainstream Republicans that in many ways have served as a check or a guardrail to Donald Trump, particularly in his first administration and even while he was out of office. And they were singing a very different tune after the election. Now, here they are confronted with their first real test of that loyalty to Donald Trump. And here's the math, Jose. They could end up with 53 members, Republican members in the Senate. That would mean 4 Republicans would have to break with the White House because J.D. Vance would be able to break any ties as vice president. So we're counting the math. Are there 4 Republicans who would vote no on a Matt Gaetz confirmation? There haven't been 4 that have publicly emerged saying that they won't, but there's certainly enough of them that are asking questions about whether or not this is the appropriate pick for such an important position that you certainly have to believe it's an open question.
And so, Ryan, back to the House part. Now that Gates has resigned, what's next for the Ethics Committee investigation into him?
Well, Jose, I firmly believe that this ethics report that the Ethics Committee has been working on, looking into these allegations around Matt Gaetz, could be the difference between whether or not he's able to win confirmation or not. And the question is, will it ever see the light of day? Gaetz has put himself in a position here where he has resigned his position in the House of Representatives. That could hamstring the Ethics Committee from releasing their report. They're going to meet either today or tomorrow to discuss what options they have. But the Senate may request this report as part of their confirmation process. And in fact, we're hearing both Republican and Democratic senators saying they want all the information, and that includes what's ever in this report. Listen to what Dick Durbin, who sits on the Judiciary Committee, had to say.
The timing of his resignation and flight with President-elect Donald Trump suggests he believes that this report is not friendly and favorable. So I want to read the report and find out what the investigation behind it brought out.
And this reminds me a lot of how the saga played out with George Santos, if you remember, Jose. Obviously, there were many calls for George Santos to step down, but there wasn't that real groundswell of support to formally expel him from the House until the Ethics Committee released their damning report on Santos. So it is an open question right now whether any of us will see that ethics report and what role it could play in whether or not Matt Gaetz becomes the next Attorney General.
Peter, I'm wondering, you've written entire books about Trump. What do you think he is thinking behind this Justice Department choice and his vision for its future?
Well, I think what we've said all along so far is right. He has, to the extent that anybody had any question as to whether or not he would follow through on some of the talk he made on the campaign trail of going after adversaries, of attacking the deep state, of trying to upend the system, he has answered those questions very resoundingly with this pick. I think he's also testing the Senate. He's testing those Senate Republicans. You say you're loyal to me, I'm going to send you somebody that will test just how loyal you really are. And you're already hearing, as we've just heard, a number of Senate Republicans are quite upset about this, quite distraught about this. They don't want to get on the bad side of the winner of their own party's presidential election. But on the other hand, if you put him on a secret ballot, my guess is very few Senate Republicans would say that Matt Gaetz is their choice for Attorney General. So are they going to go along with him, or are they going to exercise independent judgment as a co-equal branch of government. This is a big moment in a way early on, before we even get to the inauguration, of what the new dynamic in Washington is going to be. Is it a one-person government, or are there checks and balances?
Yeah, and interesting. I mean, Ankush, the president-elect and a lot of his supporters have talked for the longest time now about lawfare, the politicization of the Department of Justice. What are you hearing from inside that Justice Department about Gates as Attorney General?
Oh, look, people are apoplectic. This is the same thing that I think plenty of other people are hearing. Look, Matt Gaetz is manifestly unfit to serve in this position. He's not remotely qualified, and he utterly lacks the temperament to hold a position of this responsibility. And I have to say, any Senate Republican who votes to confirm him will own whatever debacles unfold under his watch, of which I predict there will be many. And so, particularly the people who have been at DOJ for quite some time, who have been through some of these transitions, they understand that there's political turnover, but, this is probably a bridge too far even for many of those people. And I think the, sort of the younger prosecutors, the people who've been there relatively less time, who are sort of the line attorneys, look, the Attorney General really doesn't affect much of the federal law enforcement's work from day to day at the prosecutor level. But in the highest profile matters, of course, like potentially pursuing Trump's political adversaries, or dealing with the Solicitor General, dealing with antitrust issues, dealing with civil rights, and on and on and on. All these things are under the jurisdiction of the Justice Department. The Attorney General can exert tremendous influence, both on policy and in personnel, and he can fundamentally, I think, change the culture of the department, too. I mean, we saw this a little bit under the Trump administration, sort of a coarsening of the Justice Department culture, and I really worry with someone like Matt Gaetz at the helm, there could be irreparable long-term damage.
Peter, you point out in your latest article, quote, what Mr. Trump does not do through the Justice Department, his Republican allies in Congress may do it on his behalf. What do you mean by this?
Well, look, if he goes after his adversaries in multiple different ways, he's going to keep them off balance. The Republican allies in Congress, like Jim Jordan, Barry Loudermilk, who sent a letter to Jack Smith, the special counsel who's been investigating President Trump, for President-elect Trump, telling him to preserve his documents. They're saying, we're going to investigate you, basically, once Trump is back and we have a Republican House to use with subpoena power. They're going to use that subpoena power, specifically in the House, probably more than the Senate, to try to unearth documents and details and testimony and put Trump's adversaries on the defensive and to portray them as corrupt and to in effect payback for what they see as what happened to President-elect Trump during the last 4 years, when they complain about Democrats in the Justice Department and various prosecutors coming after him.
Ankush, I know just bringing it back to what you just mentioned about what is qualifications and what are not qualifications for that most important position. There is always a political turnover every time a new administration comes in the DOJ. They ask for Senate confirmed members to resign, but this is different. How do you see the difference?
Well, look, Gaetz has relatively little experience working as a lawyer. He has no experience working as a prosecutor. Now, I don't view those things as dispositive necessarily. I think the job of Attorney General, I think the right way for senators to be looking at this is not so much about, what's on his resume and which boxes to check, but to look at this man holistically and to assess his demeanor and his political outlook and the way he has been speaking about the agencies that he now wants to lead, talking about defunding the FBI and the ATF and things like that. I mean, these are unheard of positions for someone leading the department to actually take, and it will depress morale in the department, understandably. I don't know that we would necessarily see a mass exodus or anything like that. Frankly, I wouldn't really anticipate that, but who knows? I do think we would see some departures. But this is really, just in terms of like his experience and background, I don't think we've ever seen anyone as unqualified for this position being nominated.
Tasha Burns, Ryan Nobles, and Ankush Kirdori, and Peter Baker, thank you all so much. Up next, we're going to get reaction to the Gaetz pick from someone who worked on legislation with Gaetz in the past. Congressman Ro Khanna is going to be with us. Congressman, great to see you. We'll chat in just a minute. Plus, with Republicans clinching the House, the GOP will have full control of Congress. What could that mean going forward? And rumors over the health of two astronauts stuck in space are much longer than anticipated. Now the astronauts are speaking out. We're back in 90 seconds. Watching Jose Díaz-Balart reports on MSNBC.
If anyone has told you that gaining weight, feeling tired, and joint issues is just a part of getting older, they are wrong. My name is Dr. Stephen Gundry, and I found a new way to support my health. It's called BioComplete 3. BioComplete 3 works by restoring your gut health from the inside out. This is working for everybody.
I was 270. I'm now 140. It just feels amazing.
You can try BioComplete 3 risk-free for 90 days. Go to guthealthsupport.com.
Hey, little brother. No matter how hard I try,
John, are you eating anything?
There's no talking to you. Do you believe
My secret
in
recipe.
life after love?
Thank you.
Here at home tonight, news of every imaginable shape and size. A lot of the big news in the country and in the world right now is still developing tonight. Now is the time, so we're gonna do it. Settle in. I have a story to tell you. Watch this space.
Fourteen past the hour, President-elect Trump's choice of Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general is raising quite a few eyebrows on Capitol Hill, including among senators who will be voting on his confirmation.
I don't think it's a serious nomination for the attorney general. We need to have a serious attorney general, and this one was not on my bingo card.
I like Matt a lot. I know him very well, and I'm confident that if the Senate confirms him, he would do a good job.
I mean, this feels like a red alert moment for democracy.
I would describe it as God-tier level trolling to just trigger a full-on China syndrome to own the libs in perpetuity. I mean, obviously, it's not serious.
Do you think this has...
With us now to talk about this and more, California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. I thank you for your time. You've worked with Gaetz over the years. What do you make of this selection?
Where I've worked with him, I've been on issues of war powers. And, you know, to the extent that in any role, whether he was in Congress or other places, he has the president's ear to say that do not have military strikes overseas before coming to Congress, that would be a good thing. I mean, we worked together to make sure John Bolton didn't talk Donald Trump into going into war in Iran. We worked together on trying to stop the Saudi refueling and war in Yemen. In terms of this role, I mean, he's got to answer questions and have a hearing. Is he going to ensure that there's not going to be the politicization in any way of the Justice Department? Does he still stand for legalization of marijuana? And is that a policy that he would advocate? Does he stand for criminal justice reform? What is he going to do to make sure that there is not military intervention overseas without congressional authorization? I think those are the questions that should come up in a hearing.
You know, Congressman Gaetz has been under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. As a matter of fact, Senator Cornyn just a couple of minutes ago said that he would want to see that.